the 2014 Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series, brought to you from Georgia Public Broadcasting. Now, the race for Secretary of State.
Good evening, I'm Dennis O'Hare, reporter and local host of All Things Considered on 90.1 WABE on Public Broadcasting Atlanta. And we'd like to welcome you and our live studio audience to the Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series, originating from the studios of Georgia Public Broadcasting in Atlanta. This is the debate between the candidates for Georgia's Secretary of State. And let's meet the candidates. They are in alphabetical order. Doreen Carter, who is a former Lithonia City Council member, and incumbent Brian Kemp. He's been Secretary of State since 2010. Now let's meet our panelists. Candace Presley is an award-winning journalist and manager of programming operations at WSB Radio. Christina Torres is a reporter for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, covering state government and politics. And Dave Williams is a reporter for the Atlanta Business Chronicle. Now, this debate will consist of 3 rounds, and for more information on all of the rules, just visit atlantapressclub.org. Now let's get started. In the first round, the candidates will be asked one question by a specific panelist, and one question will be posed to both candidates. Candace Presley, you get the first question for Brian Kemp.
Mr. Secretary, what do you say to your critics who charge that your reluctance to embrace Sunday voting, which began today in Fulton County and in places in other parts of the state, was an effort to suppress the minority vote, and what caused your change of heart?
Well, I think if you look at the record, I've never said anything about Sunday voting other than letting the counties know that we felt like they had the ability under the law in the state of Georgia as is to have Sunday voting. I haven't expressed our opinion as the Secretary of State's office on Sunday voting. I think you must have got that mistaken with others. My personal standpoint is, it's local control issue for the counties. I'm personally not going to go vote on Sunday because I believe there's a lot of other days and opportunities to be able to vote. But certainly if the counties want to do that, that's up to them, and many of them are this election cycle.
Thank you, Mr. Kemp. And now it's Dave Williams' turn to ask Doreen Carter a question.
Thank you. Ms. Carter, you refer on your website to the need for procedures that will improve the issuance of professional licenses to Georgia businesses and license renewals. What specific steps would you take if you're elected to streamline that process?
Thank you. First, we need to ensure that all the professionals understand how to use this website and to ensure that it is up. Many of the professionals that we've met around the state were concerned that they had not received their licenses in the mail, which was another change that they weren't informed about. I think communication is going to be extremely important, and one of the other issues that the professionals are concerned about is the fact that they do not have boards that are sufficient enough to meet their needs. We have to be able to address the boards, ensure that every professional understands the process for renewing their licenses, and ensure that there are available staff when there are questions.
Thank you, Ms. Carter. Now Christina Torres will ask one question of both candidates.
Good evening, Mr. Kemp, Ms. Carter. Thank you for being here. Let's go back to voting. Elections is one of the most important aspects of the Secretary of State's office. I'm going to say since September, the office has been under sort of fire about how it keeps track of voter registration applications. But given that it's actually up to local county officials to enter those applications into the system, what, if anything, can the state do better to help them do that job?
All right, Mr. Secretary, we'll start with you.
Well, we just implemented a new statewide voter registration system over the last 2 years, moving off the state's old mainframe computer. It's more efficient, it costs less of your tax dollars, and the counties love the new system. A lot of the processes that we now have are automated. I think that's one thing that's interesting about the lawsuit that we're getting from this liberal group of lawyers in Washington, D.C. They don't even understand how the registration process works in Georgia. They're under the assumption that voter registration forms all come to the Secretary of State's office, and that's not true. Many of the forms originate at the county. they enter those into the system, and those are processed automatically. So I would tell you that we got one of the best voter registration systems in the United States, and hopefully if people will wade through the rhetoric and talk to their local registrar, they'll tell them the exact same thing.
Ms. Carter, your turn to respond to the same question.
Well, the concern, again, that we're having with the voter registration allegations is the fact that there isn't clear communication. If an organization is working with the Secretary of State's office and they're giving them instruction, helping them to maneuver through voter registrations at a level that we probably have never seen before, and if there is direct communication between the local counties and the Secretary of State's office, then we should not be having what we're witnessing now. We've taken something that is very sacred and we politicized it, and that is something that should not have happened in the state of Georgia. And so we want to ensure that when we have organizations that are registering voters, that they understand not only that they have the support of the Secretary of State's office, but working with those local elected officials and ensuring that there's a process in place to ensure that we do not lose thousands of registration forms.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Carter. And that concludes the first round. The candidates now have a chance to ask one question of each other. Each will have 30 seconds to ask the question. Then the candidate who was asked will have 60 seconds to respond, and then the questioner will get 30 seconds for a rebuttal. Brian Kemp, your question for Doreen Carter.
Ms. Carter, as you know, there's 5 main core functions that the Secretary of State's office does. I was going to see if you could help educate Georgians on what those are and see if any of those are more important than the other, in your opinion.
Well, thank you. Under the Secretary of State's office, you have corporations, elections, professional licensing, securities, and we have a responsibility to manage all of the records that are under the state. I believe that all of them are important. Our archives are important. Corporations be able to register their businesses are important. Our professionals are extremely important, and elections. Elections is sacred, but I think all of them are equally important, and we need a Secretary of State that holds all of them sacred, all of them important, and will work to ensure that all areas of the Secretary of State's office works.
Mr. Kemp, you have 30 seconds to rebut.
Well, thank you, Ms. Carter. I would just remind you that archives, the state record keeping, is no longer under the Secretary of State's office. Right. That's now housed with the Board of Regents. That's something the governor and I worked on that made more efficient and more economic sense in these tough economic times. But there is another core function of the Secretary of State in his duty or her duty, and that's to chair the State Elections Board. And I think that's a vitally important thing that all Georgians should be aware of.
Thank you, Mr. Kemp.
Do I get to rebut?
No, you don't.
Okay.
But you will have time as we go along to get back to that if you like.
Thank you.
Ms. Carter, you may now ask Mr. Kemp a question, though.
Great, thank you. Well, today is an historic day. It's the first Sunday that voting is to happen here in the state of Georgia. And not long ago, State Senator Fran Miller, a member of his own party, responded to the news of DeKalb County offering Sunday voting by vowing to work with the Republican colleagues in the state legislature to, quote unquote, eliminate this loophole by the legislation ending Sunday voting. He further talked about a more educated voter.
Ms. Carter, you had just 30 seconds to ask the question.
Okay, my question, will you support the proposed legislation to end Sunday voting and restrict access to the polls?
Well, thank you for that question. Certainly I will not be voting on that. That's something that the legislature decides to take up. They certainly can. I've expressed my views on Sunday voting before. I think it's allowable within the law. I personally think we don't need to be trying to stop access. And I also think when you look at the weekend numbers that turnout's not going to be that great on Sunday. But I do think it's all right for the counties, as the way the law's written, to have local control. You know, we've never had as much access to voting here in Georgia as we have today. We have in-person early voting. We have 45 days where you can vote an absentee ballot. We have voting on Election Day. I introduced and got pushed in the legislature to get passed online voter registration. We've had over 70,000 Georgians in just a few months take advantage of this new technology.
Thank you, Mr. Kemp. Now, Ms. Carter, you have 30 seconds to rebut.
Yeah, my question again was, will you support the proposed legislation to end Sunday voting and restrict access to the polls? I do understand that you won't get to vote, but will you support the legislation?
Right. Okay. Don't get to ask the question again, but if you want to respond to his reply, you have a few seconds.
Well, he said that he will not be voting on Sunday, but I'm still concerned that Mr. Kemp will not answer the question of whether or not he will support the legislation. He said in previous occasions where he supported Sunday ending early voting.
All right.
Okay.
Ms. Carter, your time's up. If you're just joining us, this is the debate between the candidates for Georgia's Secretary of State. Now we'll now go back to our panelists for our third and final round. The panelists will question the candidates until we run out of time. Dave Williams, you get the first question now in this round.
Thanks. I have a question for Ms. Carter. Secretary Kemp late last week called for the withdrawal of a voter registration lawsuit filed against his office, terming the suit frivolous. Do you believe, first, that case has merit, and secondly, the plaintiffs should continue pursuing it?
Well, absolutely. And what concerned me is we would not have this situation of the lawsuit had the secretary not politicized the loss of thousands of registration forms. The organization had been working with his staff, and his chief investigator said that they had been working hand in hand, and there was no need to rush to file these allegations. So at the onset, if they had continued to work together, I do not believe that we would be in the middle of his office and several counties being sued at this time.
Mr. Kemp, because Ms. Carter referred directly to you, you have 30 seconds to rebut.
Well, I will just say that there are no lost voter registrations applications. Every single one of them that met the deadline of October 6th for the general election has been processed. If you don't believe that, you should ask your county registrar. I guess Ms. Carter, who's from DeKalb County, is saying that Maxine Daniels, the registrar down there, has not processed the applications. You know, all this talk about 40,000 applications missing, we have not had one single person come into our office saying, I registered and I'm not on the rolls. And if those people are out there, they need to come to our office tomorrow, and we will be glad to help them go through the process. Or go to your county registrar's office. I've talked to the counties. They are ready and willing to help, but they have processed every single application that they have received.
Thank you. Now Christina Torres has a turn to ask a question.
Thank you. I'm going to ask one of Mr. Kemp. We're going to go back to the Georgia Archives, which for our viewers houses the state's most important historical documents. 2 years ago, you proposed closing the archives to the public until Governor Deal stepped in and an agreement was then reached. In retrospect, what would you have done differently in that situation?
Well, I think in retrospect, I really didn't have any choice at the good time. At the time, that was a really tough decision that we had to make. At the time, our budget had been reduced 40%. We had lost about 30% of our people. We were going to go to a schedule appointment at the archives to help meet the mandatory budget cuts that we were given in state government. The only other option would have been to take that cut at our licensing division or at our corporations division, which would have cost people the ability to get in the workforce. I felt like that was more important than keeping the archives open at that time. Thankfully, I worked with the governor and the legislature to come up with a plan to move archives to the regents, where they have since gotten more money and more resources. So I think it's been a great thing for the state of Georgia.
Now it's time for a question from Candace Presley.
My question will go to Ms. Carter. Your opponent has moved to make professional licensing easier by taking it online, and yet it was not the smoothest transition, with nurses, dentists, pharmacists, and others complaining about the process. If elected, how would you fix the problem, or how would you have handled this differently?
Well, first, I would have worked with the legislature to ensure that we had the funding in place to service the professionals. it's unfortunate that they are complaining about paying fees and paying fines, but they're not getting the service that they need. So we need to ensure that, number one, the funding is there. Number two, we're communicating with the professionals and we're not making decisions in silos, and that they understand how the system works. But more so to say, we should understand their needs, ensuring that we're providing the resources that they need. And if we're going to use technology, we need to ensure that the technology work. Even though their budgets were cut, this was an area that he boasted about 2 years ago, cutting the budget. And now it needs to be refunded, but I believe the funding should never have been cut.
All right, Mr. Kemp, since she referred directly to you, you get 30 seconds to rebut.
Right. Well, I think there needs to be a couple of things cleared up. Number one, we've taken licenses online to make that process easier. Number two, we had an online renewal process for our licensees that was working flawlessly before the immigration bill passed and caused us to then have to check secure and verifiable documents and receive a written affidavit that had to be notarized from the licensee. That caused a tremendous amount of work for our staff in Macon, which caused delays. It took away the online process, and therefore that was the issue.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kemp. Now it's time for Dave Williams to ask a question.
I have a question for Secretary Kemp, kind of a follow-up on what you just said. And there was legislation the General Assembly took up last year that was aimed at that backlog in business license renewals, specifically license renewals. That passed. So what have been the results of that?
Well, what legislation are you referring to?
This was a bill that I believe you talked about it going into the session, into the 2013 session. It was an unintended consequence, I guess, was the argument at the time of the crackdown on immigration the legislature had done a few years earlier, creating a backlog, and that legislation was aimed at doing something about the renewal process, particularly.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That bill did pass. We worked very hard on that, and I appreciate the governor helping us as well to make it where you only had to show the secure and verifiable documents one time instead of every time your license renews. So in the next 3 to 4 months, we're going to be cycling through checking those secure and verifiable documents for everybody. So that means that next year and the year after, the licensees are on a 2-year cycle. We'll be able to go back to our online renewal process, which will help the licensees tremendously. But it was us pushing to make sure that we only had to do this once that has taken a huge burden off the licensees and hopefully will get us back to being more efficient than we are now. But I will just tell you, it's a matter of resources. The licensees pay in $24 million a year in licensing fees. The Secretary of State's office licensing division is appropriated about 1/3 of that. If we had more resources and more people, we could be more efficient. But we're going to continue to work with the governor and the legislature, hopefully as the budget comes back, to get a little help.
Thank you. Christina Torres has the next question.
Let's continue this conversation, Mr. Kemp, with the professional licensing boards. Over the last few years, in addition to some complaints that my colleague mentioned, lawmakers have actually taken control of some boards, including nursing, most recently accounting this last session, away from the purview of the Secretary of State's office. And let me just ask, is that a sign of an ineffective or weak office?
I think it's more of a sign of having a very powerful lobby. When you think about pharmacists and dentists that moved out to the Department of Community Health because they wanted more resources. We felt like we're the most efficient organization in state government to license people, but we got to have resources to do that. I think when the legislation passed, the gentleman carrying that bill said it would cost no money, and Department of Health could basically absorb them, and the legislatures have now appropriated $3 million to just 2 licenses, 51,000 people. We licensed 450,000 people on, 6 million or 6.5 million. So I would tell you that if we got the same appropriation per license that dental and pharmacy had, we would have more than enough resources to provide the greatest service in the United States.
Thank you, Mr. Kemp. And I'm going to ask our panelists, since we have an incumbent, it's always tempting to ask the question of the incumbent, but we haven't had he hasn't said anything that Ms. Carter's had to rebut, so if we can have a question for her, that would be great at some point along the way here. Ms. Presley, you're next.
Absolutely, but I really feel the need to follow up on something that the Secretary said, and perhaps Ms. Carter would have an opinion there as well.
We'll give her some time to weigh in on this one because
you.
we want to make sure that things are balanced here. Go ahead, Ms. Presley.
Secretary Kemp, you've noted several times that there have just not been the resources allocated to your office to get the job done that you would like to do and streamlining and making things more efficient. Why is it that you're not getting the money that you need?
Well, there's tough times in state government. You know, we don't make the appropriations. That's something that the legislature does. We've given plans to the governor. We have a long-range plan as well for the resources that we need, where we could try to get people licensed the first time in 7 to 10 days to be able to process renewals in 2 or 3 days. And hopefully now that we see the economy coming back, we'll be able to do that. But as you know, in state government, there's been some huge budget holes. You think about, hundreds of millions of dollars to fill the health care roles. The legislature and the governor certainly had a priority last year that I agree with, to fund, I think it was $600 million to education. So now that some of those things have been taken care of, I'm hopeful that we'll get more resources. But you know what? If we don't, we'll keep doing what we got to do with what we got. We're doing more work with less people and less money than we ever have in the Secretary of State's office, and I applaud our hard-working employees for that.
All right, Mr. Kemp, thank you. Ms. Carter, I'm going to give you a minute since he's had 3 straight questions. We'll give you a minute here.
Well, thank you.
To address some of the points that our panelists raised.
I would agree that the staff is working hard under some less than positive circumstances. However, the professional licensing division needs an advocate. Because if they're paying the fees and they're paying the fines, they need someone in the Secretary of State's office that's going to fight for them. As I said before, 2 years ago, Mr. Kemp boasted about cutting the budget and cutting the staff. And those cuts have been directly having an adverse effect on the professionals in the professional license division. They need an advocate. They need someone who's going to stand up and fight for them.
All right. Thanks, Ms. Carter. We have time for just one more question, and this one comes from Dave Williams.
Well, I do have a question for Ms. Carter. Secretary Kemp on his website talks a lot about what he's been doing as Secretary of State to protect the security of elections, including establishing a Stop Voter Fraud website and a voter fraud hotline. Yet, going back to the legislative debate a few years ago when the legislature passed the photo ID law, Democrats have talked about the fact that they feel that voter fraud, trying to combat voter fraud is exaggerated, there's not that much of it, and it's really voter suppression. Where do you come down on that debate?
I would be inclined to agree. It is voter suppression. We saw recently with the Quitman 10+2, where they were accused of alleged that there were some irregularities. Well, we've seen recently where those cases have been dropped, even acquitted. It has been a direct attack on eligible voters here in Georgia that needs to stop.
Ms. Carter, thank you. Obviously, 30 seconds to rebut, Mr. Kemp.
Well, I think the photo ID law makes a lot of good common sense. You can't go to the airport and get on a plane without showing a photo ID. You can't get government services now. You can't go see your congressman in their office building in Washington, D.C. without showing a government ID. Certainly in many public workplaces and private, you have to do the same. I think most people think it's reasonable, and if no one has a photo ID, we'll give you one for free, and you can always vote an absentee ballot, and you don't have to show an ID.
Mr. Kemp, thank you. And that's all the time we have for questions. The candidates will now have 60 seconds for closing statements, and by random selection, Doreen Carter makes the first closing statement. Ms. Carter.
Thank you. Our ability to work, open a small business, and participate in our democracy by voting is reliant on the Secretary of State. Right now, the Secretary of State is failing Georgia. He spent the better part of the summer and this fall leading a witch hunt against an organization that has done nothing but register voters for this upcoming election. He has used scarce tactics and intimidation, potentially having a chilling effect on those new electors. Most tragic, there are still thousands of potential voters who will not get to vote that are not on the rolls. I say this is wrong, and this problem must be fixed. I am Doreen Carter. As your Secretary of State, I will hold nothing more sacred than your right to vote and for that vote to be counted. I ask for your support and your vote. Thank you. God bless Georgia.
Thank you, Ms. Carter. And Mr. Kemp, you have 60 seconds for your closing statement.
Well, I want to thank the people of Georgia for the honor of serving as Secretary of State. 4 years ago, I promised that we would have secure, accessible, and fair elections in Georgia. I also promised that we would use e-government solutions to make the office more efficient. Georgians can now register to vote online. Our military can receive their ballots electronically. We now have a free mobile app where you can register to vote and get your personalized voting information, the first state in the country to do that. As Secretary of State, I've worked hard to provide the best government services for the least possible costs. I've ensured that every voter is treated equally and that every vote counts. But we have more to do, so I hope you'll visit my website, kempmeansbusiness.com, to see our plan for the next 4 years. I would appreciate your vote and support on or before November the 4th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kemp. And that concludes our debate. And we'd like to remind all voters that the general election will be held Tuesday, November 4th, and early voting is already underway. Our thanks to the candidates and to our panel of journalists. And we'd also like to thank the Atlanta Press Club for arranging this debate. For more information about the Atlanta Press Club and all of the debates that they are hosting this election season, visit atlantapressclub.org, and this debate will be archived there. Our debate will also be available on demand at gpb.org. The Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series is made possible by a donation from R. Charles Loudermilk. Please stay with us for the debate among the candidates for Georgia's Lieutenant Governor. I'm Dennis O'Hare. Thanks for joining us for the Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series.
This is a GPB original production.